to the Future Proof podcast. This is a place where we like to talk to business owners and entrepreneurs about where they've been and where they are now and where they're going, get into goals and action plans and all that fun stuff. I have with me today a special guest. This is Nolan Buchanan from Northlake Pressure Washing. I'm almost like hesitating. I'm going, is it Northlake Pressure Washing or Power Washing? Forgive me. You introduce yourself.
Yeah, yeah, pressure washing, power washing, essentially the same thing as well. They're very, very similar. I think they're kind of used as the same term as well. So we're technically Northlake pressure washing. Power washing works as well, though.
All right. I know you have that fantastic logo. You know what I mean? It's a chipmunk, is it?
An otter. It's an otter.
An otter, yes.
I know, yeah. A lot of people get it mistaken, but it's an otter. Kind of goes with power washing with the water and everything. Kind of figured it would come together.
I dig that. Okay. And some of this stuff, I'm in a BNI group with your mom, who's part of the family business, right? She works for you, which is delightful. So I remember hearing a little bit of the origin story, but I don't want to steal your thunder. I want to go back, I guess, to the beginning and talk about what kicked this off for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great question. Essentially when I was about 15 years old, before that, kind of from the age of 12 to 15, I wanted to do something a little bit different. When I got home from school, I wanted to do something kind of fun, and that was building any type of business that I could. So I started with, a few different things, one of them being drop shipping, one of them being picking stuff up on Facebook Marketplace and trying to resell and flip those items as well. And then one day I went over to my grandparents' house in Kentucky over there, and my grandpa had showed me a power washer and how to use it. He said, why don't you make yourself useful and, try out this power washing thing. So he showed me how to use the power washer. He showed me this little thing called a surface cleaner, which is like a round disc that cleans the concrete. So he showed me how to do that. I washed part of his driveway. And then on my way to leave at the end of the weekend, he let me keep the power washer. So we kept it in our trunk, bring it back to our house. And it ended up sitting there for, probably a few months to almost a year, just in the garage sitting. And one day, I think I was watching those satisfying power washing videos online where you see like the transformations of the before and the after. I was like, man, I need to make some money here this year. And so it was towards the end of the year, I believe in 2022. And, I believe it was like August or September. So it wasn't too late in the season, but it was getting towards the end of the season there. And I said, okay, I didn't have my license. I was 15 years old at the time. So I was like, how can I make this work? My grandparents had given my brother a car. It was like a 2006 Toyota Camry. And obviously I didn't have my license at the time, so I couldn't drive it. And he wouldn't use it at all. So what would happen is my dad would have to drive me to power washing jobs. But, to back up a little bit more from there, how I originally got those jobs is I did some work beforehand for some Google reviews, stuff like that, for free, just to get some experience. I started my own driveway, started doing some family friends and stuff like that. I went ahead and started on our driveway. Then I posted a Facebook post in like a bunch of groups locally. And I got our first power washing job in my hometown, Bay Village there. That's kind of what started it all off. And from there, I continued to scale and continued to invest into more equipment, started to put a little bit more money into the equipment. Didn't really, take any type of paycheck or anything like that. I was really, still am really just very enjoying it. Love building this thing up and building it to now where we are here. So.
Outstanding. And what you do, even to the YouTube videos, has such a strong visual component, right? Like that's a helpful ingredient is being able to get that before and after, sort of dazzle, that wow factor, right? And that makes a lot of sense that step one would be collecting those, right? And you got to start with the people that you have existing relationships with, friends, neighbors, family, because number one, it's like, if it isn't perfect, you know what I mean? There's like, whatever, you let me try, it's cool, right? Like,
Right.
but of course you're aiming for these before and after photos, this marketing collateral sort of materials, that let you go out and share that and just get, that story kind of sells itself, right? Like, and you've got this factor of people who if they're in that situation and you're a service provider, it's like perfect timing. I need you, right? Um, do you find that there's a lot of competition in that space in like the places like the community Facebook groups? Do you run into a lot of other people trying to pitch that to that same audience?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. There are definitely a lot of other people around who post in those as well. Something that definitely separates us is, first of all, there's no license to become a power washer in Ohio, and so anybody could just put a power washer in the back of their truck, utilize that to wash somebody's house. Little do they know that could cause a lot of damage, especially on the siding. You never want to use a high pressure. And so when I first started out, I would only use that high pressure. I did a lot of research before starting. I would only use that high pressure on any type of concrete, hard surfaces, and no type of vinyl siding, aluminum siding, wood siding, because you definitely want to use a soft wash method for that. So the first year, I was essentially only doing any type of concrete or hard surfaces, patios, stuff like that. And then I eventually invested into more equipment to be able to do those house washes, any roof treatments as well. Because you could really damage the siding. You could really damage delicate material if you do use a high pressure. Water can get behind the siding. There's actually a UV protectant coat on the siding too that if you use too heavy pressure, it can take that off and discolor the siding. And so there's a lot that you need to be careful of, and a lot of things homeowners need to do when choosing an effective power washing company. A lot of guys out there are unfortunately giving pretty low bids and using the high pressure in the house, but that's going to cause thousands of dollars into investments that you have to fix, such as mold creating behind the siding and stuff like that, and replacing siding and showing a bunch of streaks. So there's definitely a lot of competition to answer your question, but I believe we're doing things a little bit differently over here, and we try to do the full immersive client experience. We always do our estimates in person as well, just to give peace of mind that we're a legitimate company here that's going to take care of you, walk you through the process, so you don't have to worry about it ever again. So yeah.
No, that's really exactly what was on my mind, and you that's where you took it, right? Is to recognize that you're in an industry where, like a handyman, like a landscaper, um, somebody can, you know, paint their name on the side of a truck. You know what I mean, so to speak, right? That old gag, and offer whatever they want. I remember sort of not to go on a tangent, but I remember being surprised to hear over the years that like you can be a home inspector in Ohio without a license as well. Or it's like there are these industries where it's like, no, you don't. You can call yourself that and be like, I wash houses, right? So I think it is one of those areas where that's really important in terms of consumer knowledge, is that like, and broadly speaking, that's true in a lot of ways, is that you got to be mindful of where saving a buck is gonna hurt you. But you're talking about something with people's homes that is, in most cases, their largest investment, right? Their largest investment. And so it's not an area that needs to be treated casually, right? And the risks that go along with it, I think, are really significant. So, at this point, as far as bringing new technicians and things into the mix for you, how do you because you can't be everywhere. That's impossible for scaling, right? Um,
Absolutely.
how do you put that uh sensibility in their mind to have them take it seriously and apply those same values? What's that process look like?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, and it's kind of a gray area with a lot of companies because I was fortunate enough to start this company at the age that I'm at, where I didn't have a ton of bills that I had to take care of at the time personally. And so what I went ahead and did is I hired our first technician pretty early on. Figured we had nothing to lose, and I went ahead and built a training SOP, so a standard operating procedure on how everybody's going to be trained up, how long it's going to take, what are the requirements to graduate the training, and what are the standards that Northlake has to come to every homeowner's property. And so what I did, I believe it was in 2024 is when we hired, or 2023 is when we hired our first technician there. Spent a lot of time in the field with him, made sure he was great before he went out, and then we went ahead and built a system on that. Just like McDonald's is a system for whenever a new employee comes into the workspace there and how to get trained up. We have the same exact thing over here, but now it's definitely very full in depth. So as soon as we have a new training technician coming in. They have a 2 week kind of training period there where they shadow a lead technician. They go through a bunch of tests and everything like that just to make sure we're sending out a qualified technician to your home and property that knows exactly what the Northlake technique and standards are. I believe that's very important because I've heard a lot of stories, actually heard from one of my neighbors and as past clients here that we still service. They used a company prior that did an amazing job the first time around. They hired him 2 years later, and the quality just went down the drain. It was horrible. They had to have a callback and everything like that. And that's because their technicians obviously weren't trained up to the same standard as one another. And so that's why training, comes into play so importantly. And that's why we take it very seriously here. We're pretty strict about the hiring process to make sure the person that's showing up at your home is Northlake qualified, and you're comfortable having them at your home. So yeah, that's why we're very important and big on the hiring section.
I want to acknowledge what an unbelievably strong answer that is. You know what I mean? Like, and I want to take it that because you just answered the specific question, but you also communicated something else, and that's where I want to pivot for the moment. So I'll put it this way, man. I've met you before. And I met you at a time where you weren't able to join BNI, which is a group that I've been in and loved for years because you weren't 18 yet, right? And that was just part of the rule of that, worldwide organization. It wasn't about, that chapter or whatever. But anyway, I bring that up to say, I remember bringing you out to a small networking group that was forming at the time. And as much as I really like the people in that room, and I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, I remember a moment that I felt cringy on your behalf, right? Even if you didn't track it, I was sitting there squirming in my seat going, oh my God, what an annoying thing it must be for this person, meaning you, to have adults constantly condescending to you, right? I was thinking about the term mansplaining in the world, right? And I was looking and going, is there a comparable definition for what I'm describing, right? Because mansplaining, for anybody who doesn't know it, is described as a condescending, patronizing, or overconfident explanation delivered by a man to a woman about a topic that she likely knows more about while assuming her ignorance. So that's a man-woman dynamic, but I'm talking about this age gap thing, right? Of people going, oh, this young man, he must need my wisdom. And I'm going, dude, you run circles around everybody I meet. Like you have your act together and like nobody else does, right? Like broadly speaking, you know what I mean? Like the degree to which you are effortlessly making the right decisions from my perspective. And again, I'm not trying to claim subject matter expertise. That's one of the reasons I bring it up is that like, I'm 43. I was a young parent where my kids are 16 and 21 now. And it's like, of course I'm their dad. Of course I want to impart wisdom, but like, I also recognize how obnoxious that is. And so I don't know. You can comment on it however you want, but like, that is a thing, isn't it? Is that you have to navigate a world full of people that come to you and go, pat you on the head, go, oh, isn't that cute? And it's like, dude, I'm running a business.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can definitely understand what you mean there because, yeah, I've definitely been living that. And I can understand from the perspective as, the people from BNI or whoever, was in charge at that time of why they wouldn't let someone who was 16 years old join the group. But I also think that it was kind of ridiculous that I didn't really get a chance and an opportunity to be able to explain a little bit further. Thankfully, I did end up continuing to go around, find groups, and I found a group that I was able to go to and just kind of join under the bus there under a different name and find a loophole through it. So one of the things that I actually found from that BNI group, that second one that I visited, it was amazing. I found a really good friend of mine there. He owns a handyman company in Elyria, and still friends to him with this day. He's one of my best friends here. And one thing that he told me, he brought me to his shop and he did a quick analysis of my business. and was kind of, pointing me in the right direction, helping me with a lot of things. And it really meant a lot to me at that time because I was kind of, definitely a younger business owner trying to, see how to run my company to the best of my ability. And one of the things he told me is, you're going to have a lot of problems and issues, especially being the age you are, but there's always going to be a loophole and a way around it. So I always find the way around it. And throughout everything I have been, as far as age wise, I've been trying to find the loophole around it, doing it the right way. And it's not because, I'm trying to do it, some type of illegal way or anything like that. It's because I generally want to help people. I generally want to build this company. And one of my biggest passions, especially in this company, is building a team where we can provide opportunities and careers for other people. It's not just the job you work here in Northlake, it's a career where you can advance. And that's why we believe so importantly in performance pay. We don't just pay an hourly rate. We don't just pay a base rate per job, because I found that, sorry if I'm getting a little bit off topic here, but I found that if you kind of just pay a per job rate, then the technicians will try to get as many jobs as done possible throughout the day and kind of rush the processes and procedures, maybe do a little bit of sloppy work. So we're staying away from that. And then the hourly rate, it kind of puts a cap on your pay. People don't know when they're going to get promoted next. They don't know what's going to happen next. Is $20 an hour all they can earn here? And that's definitely not the answer we want to go to as well. So we have something called performance pay, which essentially these guys are able to make as much money as possible by doing the best quality of work and by providing the best service possible. And essentially how that works is that they have their base hourly still, but a lot of opportunities on top of that. For example, if they get 5-star reviews or anything like that as well, they'll go ahead and get bonus on top of there just to make sure they're getting, they're doing good work from the client. The client's providing great feedback. There's a lot of other opportunities as well I can go in depth with. But I'm really trying to provide careers and opportunities for people instead of just another job people are dreading to look forward to going to every day. So,
yeah, no, and on the recruiting side, which I've spent a lot of time with, right? Like that's obviously, any number of industries or companies can have the potential to be a high turnover environment, and especially with the training programs and things that you've implemented, the idea of saying, once I've invested in you in that degree, and gotten you up, brought you up to speed, the idea of keeping them happy and keeping them in-house makes a lot of sense. I think it contributes, excuse me, to the scalability of it as well. A brief aside, right, is that, I was thinking that the trade-off to the moments where it might be annoying to have the condescension, piece of it. I imagine that there's times where it can be kind of an asset too, where that is a story that is moving for people, and marketing and sales is also that. It is also part of the brand, right? So there's a piece of you, I imagine, that is inclined to embrace and celebrate and weaponize feels like too strong of a word for it, but you know what I'm saying? Just like use it as a tool to your advantage to sit there and say like, no, that's part of my story. But then, like I said, then you're going back to this trade-off of going, yeah, but I don't want the perception of young equals inexperienced, sloppy, right? So it's like now you have to lean in appropriately to the other side of going, no, it's not just good business. It's maybe how you have to kind of almost balance some of that off, is going, I have to show up and look like really, really professional. Now, long term, none of that at a certain point becomes a problem, right? It's like you fast forward, and to the extent that this is the next 50 years of your world or whatever, it's, I'm curious how far down the path you think about that. It's like, are you looking to franchise this and have it, coast to coast? Where do you see your role inside the business? You know what I mean? 20 years from now, and yeah, what's some of the future you're thinking about?
That's a great question. So as far as these next 5 years, I would say trying to build the company up, not as quickly as possible, but as quality driven as possible, where we have all of our SOPs in place, so we're not scaling sloppily and we're not sending out, just like I said, technicians who aren't qualified to jobs and stuff like that. So we're scaling very professionally, qualified. We have all these standards and procedures in place for everybody coming in. Now what we're doing right now is really just trying to hire the positions on the organizational chart that aren't filled yet. And so as we continue to grow and grow, there's certain positions such as a field supervisor, operations manager that need to be filled, which I genuinely enjoy being part of the team and actually helping manage everything, helping grow the company. And so I definitely see myself always being a little bit in sort of the operation side of things. It's just something I genuinely enjoy doing as far as everything goes. But I'll definitely say I'd love to see Northlake expand, definitely in the state of Ohio. Towards Columbus, maybe a few extra locations, and try to maximize as much as possible to, again, build careers and have a great opportunity for everybody who works here. Again, I want it to be a place where people come into work every day genuinely excited here because they have more opportunity than they've ever had before. And there's also a very great team, because I always tell this to every single person who comes on our team. We're very strict about our hiring process because we have an amazing team and culture. And if you bring in somebody who has bad energy and is negative into our great team and culture, then they spread like cancer throughout the entire team. And all of a sudden everybody comes in dreading coming to work every day for, maybe seeing that person or hearing about what happened over the weekend that was bad. So we try to keep it an amazing environment here, have a lot of team culture, team building environment opportunities. But yeah, to answer your question, I definitely love to continue building this up as much as possible, not just for the scaling aspect of it, but to provide opportunity for other people. And it's something I genuinely look forward to doing every day. It's pretty much what I'm focusing on fully. I'm putting everything into here. And I love to see this thing grow, man. So.
Well, I met a friend of mine over the years, Therese McGroarty. She works in sales for a company called FranNet, for example, and I think there's more than one entity like that in the world where like what they do is they set people up with franchises. But like through talking to her, it opened my eyes up because up to a certain point in my life when I heard franchise, even as a term, I only associated it with like fast food stuff, like Starbucks and McDonald's kind of stuff, and came to understand that it's like, no, it's really about people's interest in investing in something turnkey, right? And so it certainly occurs to me with the degree to which you have built something with SOPs and things in place, like the way that you're building this certainly lends itself, right? Whether you choose to or desire to is its
Right.
own thing. I think there's a world where there's some appropriate concern at that level of scalability that you maybe lose some of the things that really made you unique, right? That it's hard to um, maintain some of that brand consistency when you're just have such geographical, separation, right? But
Right.
there's definitely brands that do it, and anyway, no, I just not that again, I don't want anything for you that you don't want for yourself, but I certainly, like I said, see that you have all the ingredients to like tip it that way at the point that you wanted to. So it's just interesting to see how you choose to grow it. And another thing I'll mention, just because you brought it up, and this could be a conversation, offline, a one-to-one sometime, but um, yeah, obviously on the hiring side, I want to make sure, because we do live here in Ohio, that you're taking advantage of things like Ohio Means Jobs, the Department of Labor Resources. Like a lot of people, when they're hiring, are going to spend money on Indeed, or like they'll post on Facebook and be like, I'm looking for this. And I mean, I'm not trying to, again, assume that you're not getting the exact results that you want already. You know what I mean? But I just want to raise my hand and say that at any point in time that you want to brainstorm around ways to find talent, um, that's a conversation I enjoy having and helping people with. And there's a lot of great, free resources. So what I always say to people, it's not even about trying to get an assignment for me. Um, you or anybody else that has like admin type people on your payroll,
Mhm.
these techniques are really worth adding to your in-house processes if they're not already there, right? Like
Absolutely.
there's some stuff on the workforce development side, and even frankly on the prospecting list building side that would be worth sitting down on. just in case you're not already doing it and doing it better than me and other people the way you are with everything else. So,
No, I appreciate it. And to go back real fast onto the franchise deal and everything like that, I think it would be a great idea, but you have to have somebody very, very qualified running the position. I'm not sure if that's 100% something, the route we're going to go yet, because I've seen a lot of companies be built up very successfully as a franchise, and a lot of companies been successfully built out without a franchise. And so it's something I have to really sit down and think about a little bit more once we get to that level. But yeah, just to answer your question there as far as that goes. But yeah, we try to, just like marketing, there's not one marketing source that is like the golden ticket. There might be one that gives you the best ROI, but you want to hit all of them combined together. So you don't want to just hit one, you hit all of them combined together, because even if you get a certain percentage on one and a certain percentage on the other, they're still working, and you still want to hit all the different ticks and checks there. So, and the reason I bring that up is because we try to do the same thing with hiring. And so we try to not just hire directly off of Indeed or ZipRecruiter. We try to do it off of, as you said, Ohio Means Jobs, everything like that. We try to post on Facebook, try to hit pretty much do job fairs, try to hit all the aspects that we can at the moment. There's still definitely a lot we can do as far as expanding to different avenues, but definitely try to hit all the corners to make sure we're giving everybody an opportunity and seeing how we can get the best candidates from. So.
oh, sure. Yeah, no, and I guess even more specifically than the job posting functionality, it would be the resume search tools, where you can just go in and put in a term like power wash technician and get a list of resumes and just
Yep.
look through and go, well, this one changes jobs every 6 months, so I'm not going to call them, but this one has been steady, so I'm going to call them. Maybe somebody else is just out of school, but they're an Eagle Scout, you know what I mean, and this would be their first job, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I like that idea of just not waiting for people to send their stuff to me. I like going out and finding them in the world.
Absolutely.
So goal setting, I guess, just to close it off this way, if we were having another follow-up conversation in, 3 years, 5 years, something like that, what are some things that would have happened in between now and then? What do you anticipate? Like, it's like, hey, man, tell me about what's going on. What have you accomplished if I'm talking to you 5 years from now?
Yeah, great question. So at that point, all of the operation side of things is going to be fully automated. There's pretty much going to be a process, and the team's going to be working together effectively to continue to build every day, kind of without exactly my presence being there. As I said though, I want to be still a very key part of everything. Not to where I have to be there for everything to run, but everything to be in place to where it's kind of automated, as I mentioned. That's definitely what we're working towards, and to maintain quality. And I'm putting a lot of effort in on the backside to make sure those things are happening. A lot of accountability holding. We do actually, just to kind of tell you as well, we have a 10-point system with all of our technicians and employees here, pretty much to make sure that they're holding themselves accountable. I could go deeper into that sometime other, but pretty much it's an accountability system to make sure that they're following all procedures possible. If there's a no call or no show, that's kind of 5 points. That happens twice. It's reviewed for termination, stuff like that. So we just like to hold everybody very accountable. Right now, nobody has any points right now because they're just great. It's a great culture. As I said, people really love showing up here every day to go ahead and complete the tasks, to get the job done. And it's something people look forward to coming to every day. So in about 3-5 years from now, that's kind of exactly how I'd like to have it. An automated company, us continuing to build up, and maybe at that point expanding to another location. So.
Outstanding. Well, I really enjoyed getting a chance to connect with you. I appreciate you taking the time to, share your journey, and look forward to seeing it continue to unfold. So I until next time, my friend, thank you again.
Yeah, likewise, Brian. Thank you so much for having me on here. And I look forward to talking to you here soon.